fast forward 11 years later, while demand has grown even within China, but the production capacity in that country has grown even more than demand, basically giving them an important lever in terms of the source of supply for all ingredients and components related to energy transition. And if you happen to see the September 2024 report of Mr. Mario Draghi on the European competitiveness, the entire 75-page report is full of European concerns about the concentration risk that is there with respect to one country as a source of supply for all critical components and technologies with respect to energy transition and manufacturing, etc. Moving on from solar energy to electric mobility, if you look at the key materials that go into it, copper, lithium, nickel, cobalt, graphite, and the rare earth materials, the dominance, and this is a slide which we have shown you back in July 2024 as well, the dominance of one country is quite clear. And in different stages of production, even if those materials are not mined in one country, the processing happens in a single country, and therefore, whether it is the cell components or battery cells, in fact, the truth is every single panel, solar panel we install, every single electric vehicle that we produce in this country, naturally the dependence on a single source for supply keeps increasing. So that dependence has to be kept in mind in the pace of transition towards renewable energies and also with respect to electric mobility. So this is the global context, that the era of globalization, faster and larger movement of trade and goods and services and investments is behind us. And there is a huge presence of a single country, a phenomena that we have not seen in a very long time, at least since World War II. So given this, naturally, we have to raise the game for a new playing field. The playing field has changed, and the game has to rely on domestic drivers of growth. So what are those domestic drivers of growth? That is what is part 2 about. Just to recap, we do have a goal, a legitimate economic and social aspiration to become a developed country by 2047. The last economic survey broke it down into multiple components, generating about 80 lakh jobs per year, increasing our share of manufacturing in GDP, plugging Indian businesses into global value chains, and creating a viable small, medium enterprise sector, which in the German language is called the Mittelstand. Because countries that basically became powerhouses in manufacturing had succeeded in creating a viable small, medium enterprise sector. Therefore, our goal with respect to manufacturing is inextricably tied to the success of being able to raise the share of SME enterprises as well. Therefore, what is the action? The action is we have to raise our game on domestic growth. And how do we do that? There are 4 dimensions to it. One is deregulation for growth, augmenting internal capacities for growth, the role of the private sector in nation building, and doing energy transition the Indian way. First, we start with the deregulation for growth. Now, when we talk of deregulation, it is not even big ticket deregulation or dismantling of the licensing era, which happened in 1991 and pursued by governments over the last 30 plus years. We are talking about the nuts and bolts or the plumbing of deregulation, which particularly affect enterprises, be they in services or be they in manufacturing, which affect them in terms of the time and the resource bandwidth that they have. And these are related to local level rules, laws, and regulations. So this is the deregulation exercise, which will probably not be a news story in the front pages, but that kind of deregulation at the local and the state government level have to happen pervasively for us not only to boost MSMEs, to boost manufacturing, but also to lift the potential GDP growth in the country. And this applies in the areas of labor and even in the education sector as well. We'll share with you a few examples. These are the areas where I think the regulations that are there today affect the day-to-day activities of businesses that don't have the kind of bandwidth which large enterprises have. Whether it is in land, building and construction, utilities, logistics, and there are sector-specific deregulation areas, and you can see more of them in Chapter 5 and also across other chapters in the economic survey. In general, we are obviously in the presentation, I can't go into all the issues which are there in the chapter. Just to illustrate, compliance costs make it cheaper to run two 150 worker factory than one 300 worker factory, whereas it should be the other way around. Regulations also disproportionately affect small businesses. If you look at the building restrictions, the setbacks to be allowed on all the 4 sides of a building, the floor area ratio restrictions, parking regulations, etc., take away much of the land available at the ground floor level for businesses. So actually manufacturing can start only from the first floor onwards in many small enterprises, both in urban and rural India, if they fully comply with the letter and spirit of these regulations. Naturally, that raises the fixed cost of doing business, and naturally, it also disincentivizes more hiring. So deregulation is not just about ease of doing business, it is a pathway to employment generation.